There is beauty in every single disaster. Truly, every single disaster is beautiful. Follow me here for a moment. You know, when something happens to you, let's say someone breaks up with you, or you're late for work, you break your leg, you get in a car accident, someone dies, someone goes to prison, you miss your kids' recital, right? Like there's a hurricane, there's a natural disaster, any disaster, right? Because keep in mind, it depends who's looking at this situation. Someone's disaster could be someone's walk in the park, right? And so similar to beauty is in the eye of the beholder, someone's disaster is someone else's walk in the park. And then there's true disasters, like, death or accidents, right? And they're horrible. They're horrible. And circumstances around you will dictate how you're going to handle those circumstances. But just pause for a moment here and replay this anytime you need to hear this again. Just fast forward to the end. You know, at least I know, and I hope you know, and maybe now you'll know, there's always a silver lining. We have a choice on how we get to look at disasters, whatever they may be in your life, whatever they are in my life, because we all go through them. None of us are exempt from them. Wealth doesn't exempt you from them, right? Being sad doesn't exempt you from them. Happiness doesn't exempt you from them. Being spiritual doesn't exempt you from them, right? Nothing exempts you from potential disasters. It's how we dance in that storm. It's how we dance in that storm that dictates how you're going to walk out of it, okay? And you're going to walk out of it with your head held high. You're going to walk out of it with a smile, because keep in mind, hindsight's always 20/20. A few weeks or a few months or a few years down the road, you're going to look at that disaster that happened behind you and you're going to see a silver lining. At least I do. My glass is always half full. Always. Always, always, always. And I hope your glass is always half full, because there's always a silver lining. Now, don't get me wrong here. Don't confuse this with, well, now I have consequences to pay and there's no silver lining in that. Yes. Circumstances and consequences to certain things are circumstances and consequences, right? Those are inevitable. But if you look at the grandiose picture, if you take yourself and do a 30,000-foot view looking at yourself and your situation and your circumstances, there is a silver lining. I promise you. It is there always, 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 always. So if you know from your experience, think of a disaster that you've been through, a terrible situation that was terrible for you, and look back at it. Hindsight being 20/20, you're most likely going to see that the entire thing happened for a good reason. You may also see or begin to see that there really is a silver lining. Or at least you can start to unearth that disaster, leave the consequences aside, but you can look at it from a different perspective and you can see that there is a silver lining. I'm not saying it happened for a reason, because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm saying fast forward to the end. Fast forward 10 years down the road from whatever disaster you're in, you know you're going to look back, hindsight being 20/20, and you know you're going to see the silver lining. So instead of waiting 2 weeks, 5 months, 10 years down the road to see the silver lining, walk into the disaster that you're in right now, or may potentially be in one down the road, and walk in there knowing that there's a silver lining. And I promise you, you're going to tackle it in a different way. You're going to accept the consequences or cruise through the consequences in a different way. There is beauty in the disaster. Remember this, my loves. Remember this, my beauties. Remember this always. Instead of torturing yourself, instead of being down on yourself, instead of telling yourself stories that you're going to have to unprogram down the road anyways, know that there is a silver lining and focus on that silver lining as you're walking through the disaster. You might as well just accelerate that silver lining to now instead of waiting. That's going to get you through the day. I really hope this helped. Love you, and I hope you are living life wealthier.